It's now my pleasure to introduce the new Police Minister, Mr James Merlino MP, to officially launch and open the conference. Minister.
Thanks very much, Adam, and good morning, everyone. To our Chief Commissioner, Simon Overland, Victoria Police, to all our distinguished guests, particularly our interstate and international visitors. Welcome to the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. This is a building a 6-star green-rated building that we're very proud of, and I hope that you enjoy these facilities and also enjoy your stay in Melbourne, and hopefully you can enjoy some of the Spring Racing Carnival whilst you're here as well. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the International Serious and Organised Crime Conference today, and it's a 2-day conference, I understand. Whilst relatively new to the police portfolio, I know this is an area that has faced incredible challenges and fast-moving developments over the past decade. Actually, before I get into my speech, stuck into my speech, I can also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're gathered and pay my respects to elders past and present. And Bill, thank you for your welcome to country. No doubt, the advent of the internet age has made the world a smaller place. Today's world is one that is better connected in ways we couldn't even imagine a generation ago. Technology has truly globalised crime, and the challenge for all of us, whether we're in law enforcement, in policy development, in government, is to stay one step ahead of these developments. This conference is an excellent forum for you to explore and consider these changes and gain an insight into the future challenges and opportunities that your agencies may face. Organised crime, as everyone knows in this room, transcends local, state and national borders. The US Federal Bureau of Investigation estimates that the global organised crime economy is worth about $1 trillion a year. In Australia alone, organised crime is a $10 to $15 billion a year business. These costs impact on all Victorians and all Australians. They're borne by individuals, by businesses and by governments. In our shrinking world, organised crime has become an issue requiring a coordinated and collegiate response on a national, state and international level. To address the growing threat of organised crime, the Commonwealth has developed an organised crime strategic framework. The purpose of the framework is to provide a comprehensive body of work for a more integrated and collaborative Commonwealth response to combat organised crime. It aims to improve our capacity to prevent, disrupt, investigate and prosecute organised crime activities effectively, as well as strengthening intelligence. In August 2009, the Parliamentary Joint Committee on the Australian Crime Commission completed an investigation into the legislative arrangements to outlaw serious and organised crime groups. During its investigations, this committee found that at various times, criminal groups had already infiltrated Australia, including Asian triad gangs, Colombian drug cartels, and Italian and Russian mafia. It also charted the rise in Australia of outlaw motorcycle gangs. The Australian Crime Commission has identified that serious and organised crime networks feature certain characteristics. Such networks and groups have transnational connections, operate in multiple serious criminal markets and are especially engaged in financial crimes, and generally operate across borders in 2 or more jurisdictions. Further, these networks and groups intermingle legitimate and illegal enterprises, increasingly use new technologies, often using specialist advice, and are fluid and adaptable, with the ability to regroup or restructure quickly following disruption from law enforcement intervention. We know that criminal organisations operate in the traditional criminal markets of drugs, fraud, money laundering and firearm trafficking. The means of their enterprise are often the same, but the methods they use have evolved, logically, to maximise profit and minimise risk. The most significant illicit market is drugs, involving the importation, domestic production and distribution of drugs, including amphetamines, ecstasy, heroin, cannabis and cocaine. The illicit amphetamine market is often a very significant concern in Australia, as unlike the heroin and cocaine markets, amphetamines are both domestically manufactured and imported. Outlaw motorcycle gangs are believed to be heavily involved in the production and distribution of amphetamines, often in cooperation with other organised crime groups. The favourability amongst criminal groups for locally produced drugs can be attributed to the increased profit share and practicality of removing the risk and cost of importation from overseas. This has led to increased competition in the local market from the growing industry. Some criminal organisations have opted for the networked, collaborative approach to the enterprise. Criminal groups that traditionally competed in the same market now have coordinated their resources for the production and distribution of amphetamines. The sophistication of this single market presents a range of significant problems for law enforcement. The detection of multiple points of production and distribution, which can transcend state boundaries, and the dispersal of profits through complex networks, all within a shrinking time frame, provides a striking example of the challenges faced by law enforcement today. Our law enforcement agencies have also adopted a network-centric strategy for targeting organised crime. The collaboration of resources and intelligence is a force multiplier. In 2009, Commonwealth, state and territory governments agreed to consider a range of legislative and other measures to combat organised crime, resulting in important Standing Committee of Attorneys General resolutions. All jurisdictions have agreed that organised crime is a national issue requiring a nationally coordinated response. As a result, Victoria has played an active role in the development of the suite of tools to combat serious and organised crime. Victoria already has tough legislation covering all the areas agreed to by the resolution, which enable it to tackle organised crime. And these include coercive questioning powers to assist in the investigation of organised crime offences, court powers to confiscate assets attributed to crime, legislation to prevent people from consorting for the purposes of organised crime, utilising surveillance devices, protecting the identity of covert operatives through witness protection, and facilitating investigations and intelligence gathering through the lawful acquisition and use of assumed identities. Victoria Police continue to use these methods to target any individual involved in serious and organised crime, including those belonging to organised motorcycle criminal gangs. Victoria Police has a strong focus on intelligence-led policing that targets criminal activity rather than particular groups. This works in Victoria and is an appropriate approach given the trend towards networks of loosely associated criminal groups. An example of the evolving strategy is the government's commitment to introduce anti-fortification legislation in 2011. The proposed legislation will enable police to remove fortifications from premises and will be extremely useful in the fight against drugs, as many of these buildings are connected with the manufacturing and trafficking of illegal drugs. It is clear that the illicit drug trade is the key profit-making enterprise for motorcycle gangs, but it's appropriate that such legislation should apply generally and should not specifically target these groups. Sharing knowledge and experience in tackling crime, especially involving a global collection of agencies and entities, such as these gathered here for this conference, is extremely important if we're going to address international serious and organised crime effectively. I'd like to thank the Australian Institute of Criminology and its partners for organising this conference. The value of this event cannot be underestimated, and as Police Minister, it gives me great confidence in our collective ability to tackle serious and organised crime in the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to officially open the International Serious and Organised Crime Conference 2010 and wish you great success in this conference, and I really do look forward to hearing about the discussions and the deliberations of the course of the next 2 days. Thanks very much.